Hey, welcome everybody. You know what? We're going to sit here and talk about the best and worst of 2023. Why? Because everybody else is doing it. And I'm sure we have a few, I don't care if it's movies, TV, video games, current events, whatever. You tell it. Let's just throw it out there, but it should be kind of stuff we went through. So no politics because that's always the worst.
Oh,
Anyway.
God.
Yep.
So yeah, so what came out this year that you thought I guess we could talk about like movies, TV that really you thought was great or the best.
At least for me, it's been an interesting year just because of the writer strike and everything. Where we did get a lot of stuff, but then it felt like we didn't get a lot of stuff. And I think looking back at the year, so far, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse has been the best movie that I've seen this year, honestly. And people might chomp at the bit and say, "Oh, Oppenheimer." No, I haven't seen Oppenheimer yet, but I'm sure it's good because it is Christopher Nolan.
Yep.
But yes, Across the Spider-Verse was very impressive to me, not only as a Spider-Man fan and the Spider-Man film, but I just love the animation style they did with that movie. How every kind of universe had its like kind of distinct style. Like Gwen Stacy's universe was the style from her comic book. Miguel's style was very futuristic. Miles had his own style. So I love the animation style that they brought in with this film compared to the first one. So that's one of my top picks for like movies this year.
Yeah, it's like no deny it's great. It's like I'm looking forward to seeing the next one, Beyond the Spider-Verse, when it's released, because that's something that the strikes threw a wrench into its release, which is disappointing. But hey, it's like I'm glad the strikes happened, and I hope everyone's going to get paid what they're worth next year. Yeah, but as far as movies go, I did see Oppenheimer. I really liked Oppenheimer because I was expecting it to be work, but it was easier to get into than I was expected, and it didn't. Most importantly, it didn't feel like 3 hours. Not like Killers of the Flower Moon, which I felt every goddamn minute of that movie. but also Myron, we really liked the first Slam Dunk as well, right?
Oh yeah, I forgot that came out this year. That was another great one.
Well, we got it this year. Japan got it last year, but we got it this year.
Yeah, we saw that in August.
Yeah, it's like that was a lot of fun. I mean, granted, we're both dyed-in-the-wool Slam Dunk fans, so like we didn't need the film didn't offer any catch up, and we didn't need any catch up. But so when we thoroughly enjoyed it on that level. But I also want to talk about like one film that I think that it's like there's one narrative here that's like that's been going around a lot, and I get, and it's kind of like okay, we know that like everyone loves like talking about A Fall from Grace, and everyone's basically said that this has been like Marvel's like Annus Horribilis, like everything they've released has been like some brand of disappointing this year, like Ant-Man and the Wasp. The Marvels, Secret Invasion. It's like just about everything that everyone's been going on about, just like how everything the Marvels released this year has been disappointing in one way or the other, except for at least one thing, and that's Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, which I think was fantastic. Basically, a just really solid capper to like the series of 3 films, and yeah, it's like some of its plot developments were carried off by Infinity War and Endgame, but this third one just brought all the characters back, and even if like its plot, its storytelling seemed a little bit more serious, and that oh my god, Rocket's gonna die, we gotta save him. It still managed to balance like the seriousness and like the funny and like the oh my god, did I just see that? It's like in here that the first 2 films managed really well. I enjoyed like from beginning to end, and to give you an idea of like how good this yardstick goes, my mom, who is not nearly as nerdy as me, still likes these movies, and she liked this one as well. So that's how good this was, and basically it just shows you that hey, DC is lucky to have James Gunn, because between like the 3 Guardians films, the Suicide Squad and Peacemaker, dude's set to just like wipe away the DCEU and put something much better in its place come 2025. So
Yeah, and I might say this, and I'm just gonna say it. I did not like Quantum Mania, and I
No.
think that, and there's a lot of things that just, I get some of the circumstances when it was filmed. There's a lot of things that just kind of went wrong. I heard that there were some reshoots, but it was really a poor showing. And then Kang is a nothing burger at this point. Okay, so I mean, that is like, and if you didn't know, Jonathan Majors was basically fired 6 months ago. So they're not bringing this guy back. I've heard that, they're,
well, I think like you said, like, Marvel started making their plans 6 months ago, but they didn't actually boot him out the door until this week.
Until the verdict came out. So
yeah,
that's very disappointing. So the whole situation sucks, but I mean, it's very disappointing that this phase of Marvel movies kind of seemed like there was no plan or structure in place in the first place, and then they were kind of banking on Kang being the main big bad. And I've had this conversation with a couple other friends too, in the sense of like, I recognize Kang as like, more of a Fantastic Four villain, but he's not like at a caliber of like Thanos. And to build the next Avengers movies based off him, like, I wasn't sure how this was going to play out. But to your point, Ant-Man and Quantumania did not set up. They didn't set the foundation up strong to where like I was kind of apprehensive about what was going to happen in the future.
yes.
And so I hope that with this current restructure, it's like, hey, let's stop. Let's take our time and really think about this. Let's stop shoving content down people's throats just for the sake of like making money and putting stuff out there. Really think about like the properties you have, what you're going to bring out, and how you're going to build this up. Because let's face it, their two biggest aces that we're waiting for are X-Men and Fantastic Four. And if I'm going to do like a main villain that would bring a gang of heroes together to stop a threat, I mean, you got Galactus right there. And so I hope they take the time to, with this pushback, because I think next year all we're getting is Deadpool.
Yeah.
And so I hope they take
the writer strike will probably have an additional effect on this whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
And may even push some of these plans further forward, but yeah, go with the strengths. But at this point, even if you were planning to use those, those things probably have been delayed, which actually may be a blessing in disguise for Marvel, to be honest with you.
Possibly.
Give them, let it breathe some, let the friend, because people are probably tired of the whole like 3-act structure where the final battle's in the third. We don't need that. Like, let's just focus on the character development. Like, hey, let's end it on a down note sometime. Let's just do it, Maybe we need that. I don't know. And then continue it in the later one, because no one ever stays dead, right?
Mm-hmm.
But give something for audiences to come back to. And I know, the second Aquaman film is technically a 2023, but it's out this weekend when we're recording. I don't know if I'll watch it or not, but Jason, you do bring up some points about Peacemaker and whatnot, like it's probably some of the better, and so we had the Spider-Verse movie, we had Guardians of the Galaxy, so there have been some shining things that happened this year, right? So, and then we also, I guess Peacemaker is good, right? Like the TV series, I haven't seen it, so I can't.
Good enough to get a second season.
Yeah, see,
it's fantastic.
Yeah, so there, so to say, well, there's burnout on the comic book movies. Maybe it's just certain things, that people are tired of seeing, but if there's stuff out there, it's worth watching. So,
yeah, I mean, and when it comes to Disney and like the content they're putting out, like You know, I admit, like, I've had a little bit of Star Wars burnt out for quite some time until, like, Obi-Wan got me hyped, last year. And I have to say this year Ahsoka did the same thing. Being a fan of Star Wars Rebels and the Clone Wars series, it's like I love that show, and I love that it's basically Rebels season 5, and the continuation of those characters. Because, like, even watching the animated series, like, I really, at first I talked crap when the series first came out, like, man, you're going from Clone Wars to this kind of, like, softer animation, because Ezra looked like Aladdin, and it didn't look as edgy as Clone Wars did. But the series ended up really surprising me. I grew to love, like, Chopper, Hera, Sabine, and all those characters. And when the series ended, I was kind of, I think it ended well, but then I was kind of sad, like, oh, I kind of want more from this particular era. And Ahsoka gave me that. And sure, it's not a perfect series, but I felt like really engaged. I love the characters brought to life, and the fight sequences were pretty dope. Like, that was a surprise, television series for me from Disney Plus. I'm not sure if any of you guys saw that yet.
I did, I did see it, and well, I mean, I really don't want to rain on your parade, but okay, I've only seen like part of the first season of Rebels, so I've got kind of familiarity with the cast here. And to be honest, like it's not hard to pick up on where the where things are starting from, but it is kind of like okay, you got to like assume a lot to get to get into it, and it's like and you got and okay, I figured like and it's the execution is solid enough that okay, I was invested in seeing where things are going, and then you get to the end and it's like, dude, what the hell? It just felt like okay, we really didn't. This really feels like it's like a bit of interstitial connective tissue between two other things, like between Rebels and whatever Dave Filoni's Star Wars movie is gonna be, without being something that really stands on its own. You got to have the knowledge of Rebels, and you've got to have at least a willingness to believe that this film is going to be good. But it's just kind of like you get to the end and it's like there's nothing there. It's like by the end, it's just like the deck chairs have been rearranged, and I just didn't feel like there's any like kind of like real solid connection to what's going on. We never learn what Baylan Skoll was going for out there, except for some vague hints to apparently like the father, the son, and the daughter, which I had to go and look up outside of the show to find out about what was going on, like with those Clone Wars episodes that were apparently that possibly being referenced here. I don't know. It's like I was just felt really let down at the end, because I just kind of felt like, okay, maybe the movie will be so awesome that it'll all this stuff will bring it into focus. But as it stands right now, I was like, it's just like the ending was just kind of like retroactively made me think less of the series. That's basically what I can say.
No, and I can see your point there, just because, like, if you're not familiar with Rebels or like the lore in Clone Wars, it's like, yeah, it's very vague on what he's looking for. And even watching the series, it's like I'm still not 100% clear. Like, oh, are they? It's more theorizing at this point. Or, oh, they're alluding to the father, son, and daughter. The dark side son and the light side sister, like that episode in Clone Wars where Anakin went to go balance the Force or whatever. Like it brought back memories of those series to where, like, oh man, I want to go back and watch it again. But not everybody's going to have the time to watch all that content just to have that series make sense. And so, go ahead.
When I was looking up, like like this stuff about like the father, the son, and the daughter, it also took me down this rabbit hole of like of what it was leading to. That said, like, because like a lot of the articles I was saying, they said like, could Star Wars bring out the biggest, baddest Sith ever, Abeloth, which is apparently like some major threat they cooked up for the new Jedi Order, or is it the Fate of the Jedi like series series of books from the expanded universe. Which just I'm reading the summaries of this, and I'm just kind of like, man, this is nuts. I'm glad I stopped reading the books when I did.
And see, and see, you bring up a point too that I think is a problem with a lot of modern, series and franchises is trying to make everything so connected and webbed, where like you need to consume this video game, you need to consume this book, you need to consume the movie and the show in order for everything to make sense. And of course, Marvel's guilty of that too, where it's like, yeah, you see that reference or you see that end credit scene. It's like, oh wow, they alluded to this, and a normal person, or I shouldn't say a normal person, but a person.
No, we're all nerds here, sir.
A non nerdy person who would go into this movie just to want to see an action movie is like, well, what does that mean? I don't get it. And it's like, no, dude, like if you saw Iron Man 2 or if you saw the second Spider-Man and we get hyped for it and they can't understand our hypeness or get in that same level because they don't understand because they've never seen any of the additional content. And so to the conversation we had earlier about like Ant-Man and some of these other movies, like, can we just go back to how the MCU kicked off, where we got an Iron Man movie, we got a Captain America movie, and we got a Thor movie, and they just focused on their character, their story, without any tie-ins really. Like the tie-ins were like very little subtle, maybe hints at the end credit scene, but the whole movie wasn't built to be like tied in per se. And I feel like modern content like Star Wars and Marvel, like they're written and built to be part of this overall infrastructure that might not help it as a standalone product, and it gets people lost. So I can see your point with Ahsoka, but me personally, like, yeah, I loved it.
Okay, I will say that I'm totally in the tank for season 2 of Andor when it comes back. That's in kick to 2025. But hey, it's like if that's how long they need to make it as good as the first season, then hey, take as long as you guys want.
Yep.
Okay, what else? What else is best, worst? Nothing.
Well, we've had this conversation quite a bit, especially me and Jason. Like, I feel, and you'll hear this amongst a lot of gaming platforms, but man, this has been a fantastic year for video games to where it's like, your plate's full. Like you shouldn't be starving, even if there's really nothing coming out next year, which there are. Like, you're not going to be starving for games. And I'm at the point now too where it's like, man, I can't wait for a slowdown because like I need to catch up on some of this stuff. But yeah, like, I mean, starting off at the beginning of the year, I mean, we got like Fire Emblem Engage, which, maybe not the best, but it's still a great Fire Emblem game. Hogwarts Legacy, if you're a Harry Potter fan, like I picked that up recently on a sale, and quite honestly, a great game. We got Zelda, we got Resident Evil 4 remake, Street Fighter 6, Final Fantasy 16. I mean, the list goes on, and this has been an awesome year for video games. Like, too many to name to be part of the best, but very few on the list that are the worst, which we'll cover. But yeah, I mean, great year for each company, Nintendo, Sony, and Xbox.
Yeah, it's like I'm going to say that Zelda alone made this year great. I mean, like anytime you make a game that's like 200 hours long, it's a gigantic open world with a huge map to explore. Well, like it's 3 different levels to it. It's like, and by the time I could feel myself winding down, like with exploration. I was kind of like, no, there's got to be more to explore, like more like secrets to find. It's like, but I've already been over just about every major area of this map, and oh man, it's like I guess it's finally time to go fight Ganon and like put an end to it. And goddamn, like that final fight with Ganon was something else. From like all 3 stages of it, like that final like mad button press to save Zelda. It's like it was class act all around. And even though it's like I know that like that Nintendo's already talking like, well, we've kind of like done everything we can with like like the Breath of the Wild formula. So like whatever Zelda comes next, it's going to be different. So, but yeah, it's like they just did an incredible job just expanding on what they did in Breath of the Wild and adding like lots of memorable features to it. Just giving us a lot of freedom to explore the way we wanted, so that no like everyone's going to find a different way to explore it, and that was great. I love just going through it at my own pace and just like poking at areas in that where I was like, oh god, no, it's like I'm not going to fight that gloom Lino right now. That's just a bad time. But yeah, it's like Zelda was amazing. Final Fantasy 16 was great because like Final Fantasy series, outside of 14 has been kind of having like a rough time for a while. 13 was in development for a while, and it basically Squeenix had to make squeeze two additional games out of it in order to recoup their investment to make it. 15's troubles were legendary, and the fact that it turned out playable and ultimately had like an affecting story was nothing short of a miracle. 16, well, it's like this is the one where it didn't have a protracted or troubled development cycle that we know of. It just had a singular focus in that you were out playing as just one character instead of masterminding a party, and you're basically kind of playing like a Devil May Cry style character action game, like as the battle system, which is it's different, but I got into it, and I found a system that worked for me.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, and I will say, the system is very, very versatile. So chances are, like, you just have to explore yourself and just find whatever works for you. And the story itself was really good. I mean, yeah, Clive has a really, really tragic origin. It's like, and like endures even more tragedy as he goes along. But it was just really involving to see him overcome that, to see him build his life back up, and finally take down the the evil villain masterminding. It's like everything. It's like and it had a fantastic localization, one of the best I've seen. It's like in recent memory, and also definitely one of the best SIDs as well. I guess that's SIDs plural, because like the first Sid you meet, I mean, he's pretty great. And then, well, the other Sid, I'm not going to talk about because that's spoilers. But I will say that, I think it was pretty clever after 15 games previous to finally go in this direction with Sid. So
did you beat the game yet?
Oh yeah, I beat it a while ago. Haven't touched the DLC yet. I think I may wait until the Rising Tide comes out before I go back to it.
Yeah, I haven't either, but I totally agree with you. Like, Final Fantasy 16 got a lot of flack. I shouldn't say a lot, but it got some flack. It's too Game of Thrones, and I like that about it, like that vibe in that storyline, and how icons and magic users were viewed in this realm. And to your point, like, I had planned on getting it eventually this year, not at launch, but then, when I read that, one of the one of the developers behind the battle mechanics in Devil May Cry, was behind this, I was like, I love that style of fighting. I'm on board, day one. And so I remember playing the demo, loved it, and then just pre-ordered the game. And my goodness, like, yeah, it was quite the adventure to go through the phases of Clive's life and everything that he went through, like, during this tragedy, and him rising above to fulfill his purpose. And it was a really great, entertaining story. Like, yeah, it's not open world, but it has open segments, and the worlds were lush and beautiful. Graphics were beautiful, and fighting was just a joy. Like, I loved equipping different icons and chaining combos and stuff like that. So really a great RPG that came out this year for me. And I think let's see, I think that's one of maybe two that I beat this year, because I think I beat Persona 4 finally this year, and I beat Final Fantasy 16 and Zelda. So three RPG style, action RPG style games. So yeah, that was a fantastic ride.
Yeah, and also like the last game came out this year that I want to talk about is Like a Dragon Gaiden, The Man Who Erased His Name, which is a side story to the Like a Dragon, formerly known as the Yakuza franchise. It basically focuses on like erstwhile series protagonist Kazuma Kiryu, who was supposed to have bowed out gracefully in part 6, but then he came back for Yakuza Like a Dragon to pass his torch to new series like protagonist Ichiban Kasuga. But now they're basically making him and Kasuga co-protagonists in the next mainline game, Infinite Wealth, due out in January, which may not get it right at launch, but I'm definitely going to play it soon because I'm in the tank for the series. But Like a Dragon Gaiden was meant to be a like a side story, as the title implies. It basically shows you, how did like Kiryu get from the end of Yakuza 6 to this co-protagonist status in it's like in the new game, and also just fill you in on what he was doing behind the scenes in Yakuza Like a Dragon. So you could argue that a lot of what's being done here is building a lot of unnecessary scaffolding, but because it's basically they didn't they get basically told you that, oh, he was working for that shady political organization that they recruited him at the end of like part 6, and that's fine. And the game just goes into that with its usual like gusto, like with lots of betrayals. Like Kiryu's going to do things his own way, and by God, the series still loves to hear itself talk, and that's really the only biggest complaint I have about modern Yakuza is that it loves to hear itself talk a lot, which is good that this game is a lot smaller than previous ones. Where the other ones could run me up to around 100 hours or so. This one only took around 46, and yeah, it sounds like a lot, but hey, I'm the gamer. This is compact for me. So, and it still managed to fit in a lot of like satisfying side stories and mini games, to the point where I felt like I got my money's worth, and that was even before I got to the end, where it just delivers this like big, like heartbreaking sucker punch when Kiryu basically finds out, because he basically had to abandon the the orphanage, the kids of the orphanage that he was running, in order to save them at the end of part 6. So basically he finds out what's happened to everyone at the end, and it basically just reduces them to this like big blubbery ugly crying mess. He's always been like a really stoic protagonist here, but just to see him lose it here just was shocking, surprising, believable, and yeah, honestly made me tear up a little bit too, because even though it's his sentiment that I needed them more than they ever needed me is something we've heard before. This is they sold it expertly here. It's it just hits hits you where it counts, and it was. And if you read the top voted Steam reviews on its page, at least the last time I checked, a lot of them acknowledge that yes, this ending just hits that moment right there, just hits you, and it's like nothing hit me harder yet. But then again, I haven't played Baldur's Gate 3, and I heard that's supposed to be a thing. But Yakuza Like a Dragon Gaiden, a lot of fun. Looking forward to Infinite Wealth next month.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, I think with the pandemic and the slowdown in game development and obviously the shortage of consoles during that period, now we're getting the flood of everything that was promised, kind of thing. And so there's a couple games that are coming out next year that I'm looking forward to, what is it? The Black Myth Wukong and Tekken 8. There's a bunch to look forward to now with Nintendo. We have a couple announcement like Super Princess Peach and Paper Mario, a couple games coming out, but the real anticipation is the rumors of like a new console coming out. So I'm excited to see what Nintendo has in store for us next year. But yeah, 2023, really delivered on this next gen consoles like capability of games and what we got. And yeah, I'm still trucking through some of them, like Dead Space I picked up on sale, so trying to go through that after Resident Evil. And yeah, it's been a fantastic year for gaming.
I'll put it out there. I'll just say that I did like Pikmin 4 a lot, and it's
Oh yeah, shit, I forgot about Pikmin. Yeah,
the best evolution of the Pikmin franchise ever. Considering its predecessor was launched something like 10 or 7 years before that, like that's how long it had been. So Pikmin fans had to wait a while, but not a disappointment at all with that game. It's
a good thing the series has Miyamoto as part of its fans and producers at Nintendo, or else we probably wouldn't have gotten this fourth one.
Oh yeah, and I think this is the most successful selling Pikmin game.
Dude, like $1 million copies in Japan alone.
Yeah, so that just solidifies this as a Nintendo franchise that maybe we should stick with. So hopefully we'll get more.
Yep. And just as a sidebar, Super Mario Brothers movie.
Yep. Oh yeah, yep, another great movie that came out this year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was just desperately, I don't say desperately, but it was refreshing to just enjoy that movie. Just sit there. It made me smile, and that's credit in my book,
Well, it was desperately needed to wipe the taste out of people's mouths from the 93 movie.
Yeah. yeah, well, for sure. And to see like parents taking their kids both dressed up like Mario characters just like warms my heart. To see the movie, I'm just like, oh, that's impressively cool.
And on top of that, I totally forgot Super Nintendo Land opened this year. So
hey, there you go. Another plus, right?
With Super Nintendo Land and the Mario movie, like we're really starting to see Nintendo push themselves beyond just a video game brand. They're pushing to be an entertainment brand. And so, I would love one day. I know Tyler sent me some pictures before too about always want to hit up the Nintendo store. At the very minimum, I'd love to hit up that New York store. But the stores that I see in Japan with all the products and the products and like the lifestyle products they offer, like dishes and kitchenware and things like that. I'm like, man, like, you can get a Pikmin, like crock pot. Shoot, like I'd love to have that in my house, but I'm joking, but I'm pretty sure they do have a crock pot of something over there.
I was just thinking, man, I'd love to have a set of China dishes that all had just like a Mario coin on them, so I could just have in my cabinet. It looks like a bunch of coins. Anyway,
yeah, because I've seen some of the Pokemon stuff, like Pokemon bento boxes, take your lunch, or Pokemon dish sets and tablecloths and things like that. I mean, I might not go that extreme, but there's some stuff like I would love like a Pokemon like mug set or something like that. But the Nintendo store, like I said, at least in New York, I've seen videos and YouTube videos of people taking tours, and it seems like a very cool place. But for the people that I've known that have gone to Japan recently and have gone to like the Kirby store, the Nintendo store, the Pokemon store, the actual Gundam store, like, man, like it'd be so cool to hit that up. So to reiterate my point, it's just Nintendo is really just branching out beyond just games now, and they're succeeding.
Yeah.
They're like the Disney of this industry. That's how I look at it.
Yeah, and their catalog is definitely become more diverse with past titles as well that you saw on like PlayStation and other consoles, and it's just kind of neat to see that. It's like, oh yeah, even though a lot of us have played those games, like I heard well, I don't know if this is a this year release or a last year release of the Batman Arkham trilogy is finally coming to this.
Oh yeah, it came out.
Like, huh?
Maybe
it came out.
Oh, it did? All right, so it does count for this year.
And maybe it shouldn't have, though. That's what I heard.
Oh, really? Why? What's going on with that?
The version of Arkham Knight on the Switch. Oh, it's got issues. I mean, from what I hear, it's like you thought the PC port was supposed to be bad. This is like it. Whenever you get into the Batmobile, it's like it turns into a slideshow. That's the level of issues that I've heard like we're dealing with here.
Yeah, like because Arkham Knight came out on PS4, and the Switch isn't necessarily at that capability as far as power goes, but I feel like it's almost there, and I say almost there in the sense of like we get a Switch 2, we get a new Switch that can handle that type of horsepower. Let us bring our games over there, and get an upgrade or get an update to run better. And I'm talking to you, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. Uh, um, I'd be a little bit more satisfied because it doesn't surprise me what you said, Jason. I mean, I already have those games on Xbox, so I didn't care, but I was like, that's cool for people who want to play the Arkham series on the go. But let's face it, I think after Pokemon, Zelda was impressive. The Tears of the Kingdom, but after playing Pokemon Scarlet, it's like you were there, but some of these resolution issues and pop-ins and stuff like can get jarring sometimes, like when I'm battling, and I just feel like we get a new console with a little bit more graphical horsepower, like this game would be solid. So I'm hoping they kind of do what Sony and Microsoft did when they went next gen. It's like, yeah, these games will get like a next gen patch and it'll run in 4K or run better. So I would imagine with a new Nintendo console, if it's backwards compatible, at least release these patches for their first party games.
That's a real nice thought, Myron, and I honestly hope to God it happens. It's probably not because Nintendo just marches to their own beat.
True. I wish upon a star, just like, Jiminy Cricket would say, but yeah, we'll have to see. Like, it's wishful thinking, but I try not to fall too deep and give my hopes up until we have actual statements and presentations from the company themselves.
Right.
So, yeah. but yeah, all in all, like good year in games, movies. I'm trying to think of television. I can't really think of. I haven't really been watching too many series, honestly. Netflix or anything like that. You guys have
Jason will say right away. Star Trek Lower Decks. I guess that counts.
Oh, true.
Yeah, it's like that definitely lower decks. As I said before on here, it's like season 4 is like the most consistently good season of the show yet. And well, I don't know what else to tell you guys that you're missing out right now.
Yeah, I'll catch up, but I take back my previous statement. What took up my time series wise was Attack on Titan. My goodness.
Yeah.
My goodness, like that. When that series first came out, I was like super fanboyed about it, but then like I lost the gas based off of like how long the seasons came out. Came season 2 out 3 years later. Season, 4 part 1, part 2, and the finale specials, like how they broke things up and the length that it took. I mean, it took 10 years for them to finish this series, but by the end, I felt like very satisfied and almost honestly, I felt well worth it. I mean, granted, like people kind of crap on season 2, but I mean, when you watch everything together, I mean, it's just a fantastic series, dude.
Which is what I did last year when I made my effort to to get into the anime, because apparently it's supposed to be the best version of the story, and yeah, it's like it really is, because this is not only was this a series that was meant to be animated, where there's like very concept to demands like seeing everything in motion in order to really appreciate what's being told. They actually made some smart choices to in order to get into the story faster at the start. And I don't know, I can't comment on this specifically, but one of the guys we watched it with, the second finale episode, basically talked about a lot of the issues people had with the finale, and just what the finale did differently. It's like basically it's like the original version was just kind of like, it's like, oh, you became a mass murderer for our sake, thanks, Aaron, and that apparently did not sit well with people. And this one we get Armin telling Aaron, it's like, I'll be waiting for you, like for what you did in hell. We'll be together in hell. And that's, yeah, I think that's probably a lot more true to like, what went down there. But yeah, like both of these finale episodes, I think were really strong. Like the first one did a great job of just like, setting up the stakes of just showing you what the rumbling was. And it's like, and just cramming a lot of stuff into its like just over an hour runtime, and leaving you wondering, oh man, when's the finale gonna happen? And then it arrives. It's like, and it's just mostly balls to the wall action from for the first hour, and then you get the it's like then you get all the resolution and like the explanations and like a credits based epilogue that just goes places.
Mm-hmm.
And basically lets you know that, yeah, it's like, like the world may be saved, but humanity did not learn a goddamn thing from any of this.
Yeah. And so like that series, like I watched it a combination of Hulu and Crunchyroll. And by the end of it, I was like, I gotta finish my collection. So I bought seasons 2, 3, and seasons 4, part 1 and 2, like in the same week. Like I was like, this needs to be on my shelf. And if I were to ever cancel any service, I wouldn't be sad, because I have Attack on Titan on Blu-ray, so like, yeah, that was fantastic. Another series that I totally forgot because it came out in the beginning of this year was The Last of Us.
Oh yeah,
big fan of the game, and the adaptation, on screen was like phenomenal. Like, brought back memories. Like I haven't beaten that game since it came out on PS3, but man, there were some like memorable moments that really stick in your mind. Not only as a narrative as a video game, but seeing it translated into like the silver screen. It really jogged up those emotions, especially the intro where Joel's tragedy and happens and how that affected his life. And man, really, Pedro Pascal, phenomenal actor. And and I can't remember the actress's name. Her last name's Ramsey.
Bella Ramsey.
Thank you, Bella Ramsey. Really great Ellie. And I really loved the cast of for each character, each role that I'm like familiar with from the game. And they did a great job with the clickers and not it having being drowned out. Like, yeah, we're trying to survive these monsters. Like, they're not only trying to survive monsters like clickers, they're trying to survive the other monsters, which is humanity. And I think the show portrayed it very well.
Yeah, it's like this is another series that did like a lot of smart considered changes, like from the source material, specifically like the episode with Bill and his husband, and how how they meet. It's like in their life together. It's like I mean, you understand like why the story went the direction it did in the game, but here it's like it's like it shows you it doesn't have to be as like dark and relentlessly dark and depressing in order to like get across the same point. And overall, it's like, I mean, it made the show like still interesting to watch, like even though like we know where everything was going, especially at the end when it's like it's big twist, basically showing you that, hey, this is basically a story where like like the big, it's like the big gruff hero who's closed himself off to humanity learns to care again, like by caring for the daughter he never knew he could have again, and and just like the game, it took that same angle about finding an interesting angle to put on that to show you that it could be like really kind of fucked up in a way that's different, and it's like and compelling. And yeah, it's like, and it worked. It's like and to be honest, like the way they handled season 1 gives you a lot of optimism for season 2, which they're saying is going to be probably multiple seasons, because part 2 is a lot of story, and it's also a lot of grim, dark, and depressing story in the way that the first game didn't quite cross over to, because while I respect a lot of what Part 2 was trying to do, by the end of the game, specifically its final act where you take control of Ellie again, I was just kind of like checked out and saying like, oh god damn it, why do I have to keep going with this? And you're just gonna like you already made things like, you know, like the worst possible situation for them, and now we're just gonna like, you know, go and probably make things even worse for the characters. Man, it's like I've seen some arguments for it about how basically we're like it's not like about you, the player. It's about Ellie is making this choice. It's what she wants to do, and you're just kind of like, you know, hostage to that. And I don't know. It's like I get it, but at the same time, it's kind of like when you're saying like, oh, when you're saying something is meant to be deliberately boring, like you're saying, okay, that's certainly a choice, but at the same time, you're asking us to just, you know, engage with stuff that is like, you know, not meant to be entertaining. And with this, it just kind of feels like, okay, it's her choice to you know, go and do this stuff that we, the player, just feel is just like really miserable, and like we just kind of want to stop. And you can't really do that unless you just like, you know, just put the controller down and move on to something else. So, but let's just say that given the backlash that Part 2 had, I'd be really interested to find out, you know, how they're going to change things for season 2, because they obviously are going to change things, and also just, you know, what Part 3 is going to look like, because I mean, director Neil Druckmann has basically said that he's got an idea for Part 3, and it sounds like and we don't know what Naughty Dog's next game is going to be now that they've canceled this spin-off, this multiplayer spin-off for The Last of Us, which I can say good riddance.
The online thing, The Last of Us Online.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, good lord, it's like when I like the fact that when they basically said that, you know, once if we put this game out, we would have to become like a live service company, and they just basically said no, which thank God. I mean, like, you've got at least someone there at the company knows what they're doing. So but yeah, it's like I'll look like whatever Naughty Dog does next, whether it's like, you know, Uncharted 5 or Last of Us Part 3, or hey, whole new IP. It's like, you know, I'll be interested to check out, because like they do good games. It's like, even if it's just like, you know, takes them a while to get them to us.
Yeah, they're one of my top, you know, they're one of my top favorite, you know, game developers, you know, back in the day, since Jak and Daxter. I never cared for Crash Bandicoot, but, you know, starting with Jak and Daxter, that's when I, you know, really got into like Naughty Dog's like design and game philosophies and things like that. And then they came out with the Uncharted series, really great series, and they came out with The Last of Us. So one thing I can appreciate about them is, like, you know, they don't wear out their welcome in the sense of like milking a franchise. They tell their story, wrap it up, and move on. And so, like, I would love to see a third Last of Us to wrap this story up. But then I do want to see like a new IP from them, because, you know, they tell really great, compelling narrative stories in a video game and have great gameplay. And so, yeah, Last of Us, you know, great series from this year. And then, of course, like I said, Attack on Titan. And that's all I can kind of really think about as far as, like, I mean, I mentioned Ahsoka earlier. I didn't really watch too many like series this year. And of course, you know, I have some catching up to do on certain things. But yeah, I mean, it's been a great year in entertainment. And, you know, from John and I, you know, the collectible standpoint, like, hit and miss, you know, with certain items. Like, at least for me, like, Bandai's SH Figure Arts line has been on fire. You know, continuing my Dragon Ball collection, and they finally came out with Bleach stuff, because, you know, Bleach is one of my favorite anime series, and now that the series is back, like, finally getting some decent products for it. You know, the Transformer front, like, has been hit or miss. I know, like, beginning of the year, you know, I went hardcore with a couple of the Fans Toys releases of Jazz and Mirage and Cliff Jumper, but yeah, it's been kind of low key lately.
I'd say the Studio Series 86 was probably the best thing that came out. anything that came out for the Studio Series 86 was pretty good. I didn't see any problems with any of those. That would include the Dinobots, of course.
True, because I think the only one that came out this year that I'm looking at right now, I got Snarl and Ironhide, or not Ironhide, but Ratchet, and I thought that was it.
Ultra Magnus.
Oh yeah, I still didn't pick up Ultra Magnus. Yeah.
Ultra Magnus. Yeah. I don't recall the other ones, but yeah, I think there were at least 2 Dinobots I thought that were released. There were Snarl and Sludge. I think those are the 2 that were released this year.
I think one came out last year.
Did it? Yeah, I don't remember. So it's, the releases are so kind of far apart, so it's kind of like that. But but Ultra Magnus is definitely a stronger entry into that.
Did you pick that one up? I presume.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I totally got that one. And it's
does he look like the masterpiece?
Yeah, he's a lot closer to the masterpiece, and he's not like the War for Cybertron releases. So those releases were more like they were trying to go for more of a G1 vibe, where you had like an alternate cab with like the what we'll call White Optimus Prime, but with the blue visor and stuff or mouthpiece. But this one, this one was more like it wasn't a separate component, kind of like the masterpiece, right? So it's surprising, really, because I don't even own the masterpiece, but I suspect that it transforms in a similar way. Because I've actually seen some of the like the third party ones that don't have like a the white cab or whatever you want to call it, and they transform very similar. They utilize the cab in the chest, and and I'm like, oh, okay, so that's how this one is. It's it just utilizes the cab in the chest. So
nice.
Yeah,
that's still on my list because I did not pre-order it, and then I think at least looking on Amazon, when the initial pre-orders go out, then the secondary market is like, oh yeah, $109.
Yeah.
No, I know it's 89.
Yeah. Perceptor Studio Series 86 Perceptor came out this year as well. So
okay, I picked him up too.
Yeah, he's pretty good. And they were finishing off some of the legacy, some of the other legacy line, not the current one. And some of those were pretty good. Although there were some recolors and repaints in that, including they did the movie, like the battle damaged, like Ironhide and Prowl.
Oh, the sad ones.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty interesting at the very least. So, but all in all, not too shabby in terms of mainline releases from Hasbro. But then there's of course Menasor was a good one too. I actually enjoy this set and figure, so it's probably like I'd like to see more things like that. Be honest with you, it's a very well put together thing, not like the Combiner Wars version at all, which I do have. A little bit more, the Combiner Wars one is like a little, it has balance issues, we'll say. This one here is just solid all the way around, probably because they used most of Motor Master's trailer to be a frame, and that's good. So
and to that point too, from our earlier discussion where it's like, they're focusing on other lines like animated and Beast Wars and all that kind of stuff. It's like with G1, it's like, I know we got a lot of updated characters and molds within, the War for Cybertron and Earthrise line. But when it comes to the combiners, like Combiner Wars came out a while ago. And after your review that I saw on YouTube and discussions with you about Menasor, like I kind of want to see others redone again. I know that with Motor Master's cab, that led to the engineering of being able to have them all in one body, but there's got to be some way or some method that they can think of, with Silverbolt, or maybe an easier one to do would be the Protectobots, and have Hotspot use a similar engineering method. But I would like to see more of the combiners being in that style too, because it does look a little bit more solid when it comes to posing and stability, as you said, because the Combiner War stuff does have some balancing issues.
Yeah, and that's, like I said, just slightly unfortunate, but overall, I just think they did a pretty good job with some of these. So it's not would I like to have seen more? Heck yeah, but they're kind of drizzling out their releases. You expect to see that, I suppose. So because they got to keep the G1, like the hardcore G1 audience engaged while promoting all the other stuff. So
yep.
Yeah, so let's see here. And I know that they did release like the gamer edition Optimus Prime, which admittedly is pretty good for a figure. Even though I had the original one, it's bigger, it's just a lot more nicer, and they threw it under the Studio Series, so but I did like it. Even though I'd picked up that figure before. So so yeah, pretty much where it is. And of course they were recoloring G1 like figures to be more like Transformers the movie. They basically did the anime, they gave them the anime treatment, which was kind of good. I like those. I did pick those up. They're exclusives to Walmart and stuff like that. So and then releasing like some other things out there. What do I mean by that? I mean like what was it called? I know that they had, they released some Insecticons, things like that, but like they picked one of the interesting ones that I reviewed was DevCon, which is like complete off the wall. So there's a character in the G1 cartoon. Remember when Smokescreen, like, there was kind of like this weird episode where Optimus Prime crash landed and they were like in some like alien kids room. Do you remember that one?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And like they used like a toy rocket to get out of there.
Yep.
And then in the next episode, it was almost a follow-up. Like the Autobots all got caught. And then like had all their, basically they were made to be gladiators, but it didn't work on Smokescreen. And so like so he goes and he helps try to gamble like to win like the Autobots back. So yeah, Smokescreen has a gambling problem. And then on the same planet, he meets this Autobot named DevCon. Well, they made a figure of that guy in that one episode, which I thought, and it's a remold of another thing, but I kind of liked it. I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. I'll subscribe to that. And I think that I will give credit where credit's due. I think Hasbro has been trying the last few years to make figures that never existed before.
Of course.
And I'll just say like Jetfire, Skyfire. Skyfire was the one, and we got that a while ago, but that's the thing I just mentioned was one of those figures. So I'd say keep up that kind of good work. And then they released Ariel and Dion, and I did do a review of those on my channel. Those two were Orion Pax's two friends. The ones that thought Megatron was cool. Anyway,
yeah,
that's an Aerial Bot. That was an Aerial Bot episode, right? Like at the beginning of the episode, I think this is the one with the orange-headed Aerial Bot. It's like, yeah, he's like, I don't know what's wrong with these. Like the Decepticons they're not that bad. And then at the end of it, like he winds up like seriously hating like Megatron. So fun stuff. They made the two figures, so like obscure figures. They were repaints, remolds, but still okay.
Yep, deep cut figures that any hardcore Transformer fan would be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna add in there to recreate that sequence when Orion Pax got shot up and became Optimus Prime.
Yep. But that's all I got really on the figure front. Good stuff. But then in third parties, well, Myron, you and I both got Jazz and I think Mirage from Fans Toys. So masterpiece scale figure. So
yeah, the beginning of the year, post Christmas, and gift cards and paying off bills and stuff. I went a little crazy. I went a little masterpiece crazy because I think when I was talking to you, that was when the Make Toy Seekers were on sale for like $70 a piece for Thundercracker and Skywarp, and so I picked those up. And then Jazz and Mirage came out. I picked those up. I picked up Cliff Jumper. I picked up version 2 of Sea Spray. And so beginning of the year, like, did go a little Transformer crazy, and then I've mostly been good. The rest of the year, focusing on other priorities and stuff like that. But of course, there's those main ones you have to get, like Snarl. Like, it's like, he's a Dinobot. I have to complete, that Dinobot set. But yeah, for the most part, if I had to sacrifice something in the collection, it's like, okay, like, I got to keep up on my Dragon Ball figures. I got to get all the main characters that I want from that series, and just juggle collection, so to speak. So what I'm really hyped for in 2024 that I got pre-ordered is the DX Chogokin YF-19 from Macross Plus. That's a Valkyrie I've always loved from that series, and I've been wanting that figure for a while, but it only released in Japan, and the import cost was like $500 and up. And so the fact that we're getting a US release at cost hopefully tells me like Macross Plus is making some surgence in 2024, like on Blu-ray. I think Jason, you mentioned, did they bring it out in theaters already? Through
what?
Macross Plus through like Fathom events?
Yeah, they had a screening for that last year, I believe.
Last year, okay. So I mean, I just have a feeling like with the release of this figure, like maybe Macross Plus or some type of Macross something is coming out on Blu-ray or whatever. So I'm really hyped on that figure. So which kind of leads to one of the worst of 2024 is the fall of Blu-rays and DVDs and physical media. So
that really sucks.
So I mean, Jason sent us that article about the Kickstarter for Macross 2, getting funded for a Blu-ray release, and I feel and I think that's why I started picking up like a lot of these anime, like Attack on Titan after I watched it, and I picked up Psyche K. That anime is funny. Like, I feel like there's a niche for certain series to be released on Blu-ray, like your animes or certain big title movies, but I see that format kind of excuse me, slowly dissipating. You can't walk into a Best Buy and buy a movie or a series. Target has a very small, like, one shelf for it, and I'll be the first to admit too, like, a lot of films that come out in theaters, like, they'll come out on Vudu like a month or two later, and I'll be the first one to buy or rent from there, and that's how I consume it. But for some of those blockbuster movies or great movies that I want to have in my collection, like an Oppenheimer or something, it's like, I'll pick it up on Blu-ray. But it's starting to become a thing where, like, you might not be able to walk into the store and get it. You have to order it. And that tells me, like, are companies even gonna like find it valuable to even print, discs if they're not raking in the money that they used to?
Well, it's an interesting subject because one of the indicators here is that, and I think this is kind of fascinating. And what do I think? Okay, so the studios are killing, I would say the studios, like, I would say, okay, retailers are not selling this physical media anymore. However, here's the problem. Streaming is not as profitable as they thought it was going to be. So that's part of the problem. Now, the threat is that and it's realized from both sides, from what I understand, is that you will now
It's why we had these strikes this year.
Yeah, you're not going to be able to find things anymore. If you can't find things, you're not going to watch them. Your viewership's going to go down. If you have to subscribe to 10 different things, yeah, that's another thing. Exactly what you're saying, Jason. But if you have to subscribe to 10 different things to watch things, that's not really a good model, for releasing of media. So I think, and I would say this, that that companies should be careful what they wish for, because they could effectively shoot themselves in the foot, and if companies aren't selling them any, DVDs and things like that anymore, you have a chance of things just completely disappearing, and that is a problem. So
the free ad-based tier worked for decades. Let's make a return back to it.
yeah, I think it's worth it, and I think you see like streaming services like Pluto, which has ads and it's kind of ad supported, but you do see those things kind of working, but again, maybe that's more the future, but again, there's not a lot of choice there. It's and buying physical media, digital like media, I was always happy to get like a Blu-ray that had the DVD and then the digital code, right? Like that's a nice combo for me, or something like that. It doesn't have to even be DVD. If it has a Blu-ray and a digital code, I'm like, oh, okay, I can go for that. Well, that's starting to die away too. Like they don't want to just drop those in there anymore. So if you're not selling physical media, you're not selling codes, so there's that.
Nope. So yeah, that's because to your point, like this year I kind of really got more strict and adopted the subscribe and drop kind of model where like, I subscribed to HBO or I should say Max. I subscribed to Max when Last of Us came out because I really wanted to watch it and keep up with that. But then the moment that was over, I unsubscribed and resubscribed back to Netflix. And of course, like Netflix didn't really have too much like I was like, hollering about. I mean, they have certain anime series up there that I like to watch. But then, of course, when Max started the latest season of The Righteous Gemstones, same situation, unsubscribe, resubscribe. So, I mean, there's only certain services I kind of perpetually subscribe to, mostly like Disney and Hulu. Disney more so for legacy content rather than newer content. And of course, Hulu, that's how I kind of keep up with wrestling and other like shows that air on TV and come on next day. Yeah. So that's kind of what I keep up with. And I have Apple TV Plus, for free. And so, they have some good content and things up there. But to your point, like I'm past the point where it's like, I'm not going to subscribe to everything just because I want to watch DC material. I need HBO, or I want to watch, this material. I need, Peacock. It's pick and choose. And so I love The Last of Us so much that, I bought the 4K Blu-ray because I want to watch it again, but I'd rather buy it and have it in my collection rather than subscribe to the service again and pay $15 a month.
Yep. And I'm seeing a lot of different people now posting either videos on YouTube or whatever saying like, hey, don't throw your physical media away. Like keep your physical media. And there's this has really been gaining a lot of traction actually. And what was the other thing? Not just keeping physical media, but oh shoot, I forgot my point. Anyway, I think it's interesting that that people are now saying like, hey, wait a second, because once they stop printing these DVDs and things, the show is gone. You know what? Essentially, it's gone. It's just not there.
I mean,
You don't you're missing the choice. And I do like that. I think it was Christopher Nolan. We were passing around an article, right? Or there's a few articles where Christopher Nolan's one of those directors like, yeah, we want you to own this DVD. It's like of my movie. Yes. You know, and I found those articles to be really kind of refreshing to know that it's like they were basically affirming the fact that you could take it off of your shelf and watch it and at your leisure, right? It's not tied to a digital service in the cloud or anything like that. Not knocking those technologies, but that doesn't mean you get to get rid of, throw out this piece now, and I think that that's the point, right? So, and there's people who don't have great internet connections still,
right.
People think, oh yeah, well, it's 2023 and stuff, and everyone that's not true. Not everybody we want to think of the internet as a utility, but it isn't. It's not yet. Should it be? That's another debate, right?
I mean, to your point, I mean, look at our past conversations about Macross. Like, until that Harmony Gold deal, and that agreement to where they started re-releasing stuff, like that content was lost to time. And I always kick myself in the ass when you bought that Macross complete collection from Best Buy back in like the early 2000s, and I'm like, man, like I wish I got that, because who would have known like something like that would have happened, and I would lose that to time. So similar situation where like, yeah, don't throw your physical media away, because if it's locked in digital or locked to some service and it goes to way due to like licensing or certain contractual obligations, like it's lost through time.
Exactly. So, and that goes for your video games too, by the way. This is not just about like, TV shows and movies. I mean, this cuts all the way over to that side of the equation too.
Yeah, because I've been listening to a lot of different video game podcasts, especially after the Activision after Microsoft purchased Activision. Like everyone's clamoring for Guitar Hero again. And you remember during that craze, like you could find a guitar at GameStop for like $2 and use Guitar Hero games for like $2-3. And now that the nostalgia bug for those games are, coming back, like you go on eBay and find like, Rock Band Beatles for like, $400, or, find Guitar Hero complete for $200. And it's because like a lot of those songs and that were in those games, like, the license is expired. So it's rare to find like Guitar Hero Metallica or Rock Band Beatles or things like that. So yeah, hold on to your games, kiddies.
Games. Yep. Rhythm games haven't completely died out, but yeah, you got a good point there. You can still buy Taiko Drum Master.
Yeah, true.
Well, I'll tell you, I'll be honest. I did buy a while ago the Switch controllers for Taiko Drum Master, so I do have 2 of them, and yeah, it's fun. And they did recently release another volume of that stuff. I didn't buy it though, but I think it's fun because I always love that. One of my favorite rhythm games of all, which still exists. So there's that.
Yeah.
I don't know that I don't know if there's anything else that you guys wanted to highlight from 2023 is good or bad or whatever.
Yeah, I can't think of anything. I mean, like, yeah, I mean, there was just so much. I think the older you get, like, time is just so fleeting and goes by so fast. It's like, man, what did happen or what did come out in 2023? And I think we did a good job, highlighting, a lot of our favorites and, bringing out the worsts, of this year. But I'm pretty sure after we end this recording, like, we'll think of like, oh crap, we should have mentioned that.
Yeah.
But, I still got stuff.
Go for it, man. Throw it out
because
there.
I mean, I know we talked about Attack on Titan, and that was definitely a highlight of the anime year for us, along with first Slam Dunk. Gotta give nods to all the other anime that I watched. that I watched this year. Stuff that actually came out in this year, to be honest. I mean, this year was positively stacked, especially during the spring for me and my buddy Steve, because like not only were we watching like 8 series like every week, it was like that time it was like My Home Hero, The Dangers in My Heart, Oshinoko, Konosuba, Explosion on This Wonderful World, Gundam, The Witch from Mercury, Ranking of Kings, Treasure Chest of Courage, Vinland Saga Season 2, and Birdie Wing Season 2. Of that list I just ran off right there, big winner there was Vinland Saga Season 2, because even though I didn't watch the first anime season, I've been a huge fan of the manga for years, and basically this season picks up after a nice clean break in the storytelling, where our protagonist Thorfinn has just had his like lifelong crest of vengeance ripped away from him, and like life as he knew it as a cold-hearted Viking killer is gone now. Now he's just a slave on a farm because he doesn't have drive to do anything else. It's like, and the first episode of the season picks up from the perspective of another guy, Einar, who's basically he's living in starting RPG village, which what happens to them. Like they get raided. It's like they get raided for parts, and his family gets killed, and he's sold as a slave, and he winds up on the same farm that Thorfinn does. And so basically, first half of the series is just them getting to know each other. Thorfinn finally learning what it means to live again, and the series just like basically it doesn't quite transcend the manga, but it does execute on everything that made this part of the manga great. I mean, it sounds like what could have been like a real miserable slog each week actually does have a fair amount of drama and just like some really well directed action, courtesy of Studio Mappa, who handled this season. But really, like the surest sign of how well this series pulled it off is that pull off what it was trying. The seriousness of the story is trying to do is that my buddy Steve and I we just love to talk shit about everything we watch. I mean, sometimes it's from a perspective of fun, like we're just kidding because like we like this show, or it's not because like we really goddamn hate it and we're just trying to keep ourselves awake until like the next thing comes on. But Vinland Saga season 2 is the rare show that actually just got us to shut up for episodes at a time and just take in what the story was telling, to just like say anything, like to just make it like one of the supporting characters like lead guard on the farm is called Snake, and like to just make a snake joke at one point when he gets knocked the fuck out by another character. It honestly felt like we couldn't do that because it would just be disrespectful to what was going on. So that's Vinland Saga season 2, and the good news is that there is more than enough manga for a third season to be put out. Once Studio Mappa or if Studio Wit decides they want another crack at things to come back and do it. But given how universally praised this series was, I mean, watching Anime News Network's tracking, it wasn't surprised to see it top the weekly rankings like during the winter season when it premiered, but to see it maintain that position when spring rolled around and all like the new big high profile series started showing up, like Oshinoko and second half of Witch from Mercury, like it still managed to maintain that, and that tells you something that everyone was really invested, and they just it struck a chord definitely, and you could see that when Makoto Yukimura showed up at Comic-Con this year, and even like they gave him like a room that was far too small to accommodate him, and all the people who wanted to see him, I got in. A lot of other people did not. So that's and basically you can tell most everyone was there because hey, they were a fan of the series, and because like the anime just like did a superb job adapting it. And that being said, the other show I want to give a shout out to is something that not nearly as many people watched, but I'm sure everyone who did watch it found like found something about it to love, and that would be Undead Murder Farce. This is a series that takes place in a turn of the century world where it's like monsters exist, and it's like you like your vampires, your werewolves, like your zombies, your Frankenstein monsters, that kind of thing, and the only things capable of killing them are like creatures known as Oni. And basically, this series concerns a half-blooded Oni named Suguru, who's recruited by a female detective named Ayarindo, because she needs his help getting something back that is very important to her, the lower half of her body, because someone stole this from her, because she is what's called an immortal, someone who can't die, and that's why when we first meet her, she's just a head in a bird cage, and that's the way she remains for the entirety of the series, from there on out. And the series is basically after the first episode, which is basically just the introduction, and it's the least good part of the series because it's just them like a lot of talking, and director Mamoru Hatakeyama does do a good job of like trying to make all this talking head stuff interesting. It still suffers because it doesn't get, you don't actually get into like the monster hunting and problem solving aspects of the show. That begins in the second episode, which is it kicks off a 3-part arc where the two of them, along with Aya's maid retainer, have to solve a locked room mystery involving a vampire family. So that's just the tip of the iceberg, though, because the second arc is basically the League of Extraordinary Weebs, as she gets called back to London by Phineas Fogg, the man who sailed around the world in 80 days to protect a gem that he has that apparently like leads those crafted by dwarves that shows the location of a hidden colony of werewolves. Now, someone has promised to steal this gem from him. None other than Arsène Lupin, who is also teamed up with the Phantom of the Opera to take this down. And who else is Phineas Fogg hired to make sure this doesn't get stolen? Well, none other than Sherlock Holmes, who Aya has worked with before and doesn't have too high of an opinion of. And if you're thinking that, hey, if Holmes is here, surely Moriarty can't be far behind, you'll be right. And the entourage he brings with him is just chef's kiss. And this second arc is just, it's the highlight of the series. It's just like, it takes like all this late early 20th century characters from if you've read the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, you're gonna see a lot of familiar faces here, but they do a good job of just bringing in a lot of the fun that this big old mashup would imply. And it's like, and then you get to the final arc, which is another murder mystery, because when they go to investigate this werewolf village, they find that there's another human village nearby where the youngest daughters are being killed. But it also turns out that someone's also killing werewolf girls in the werewolf village. So someone is trying to bring these two colonies against each other. And even though it's the longest one, it really doesn't overstay its welcome by the end, because there's some good shit there, and as the story keeps getting unfurled, especially, and it climaxes in a really spectacular fashion. So even though it's there's still some stuff left unaccomplished at the end of the series, it's got enough closure to wrap things up. And I hope that the creator of the series writes another novel, because yes, this is based on a book, not a manga or a light novel that they made into this their great 13 episode series. Go watch it. It's every bit as fun as you'd think that a series called Undead Murder Farce would be.
Awesome. Definitely gonna go and check that out, because no, I haven't seen it yet. Cool. Anything else? Did you say you had a few others?
I could keep it going, but I think after all I've said about these two, it's probably just let's just say, like, go watch these, and if you want more, I've got more for you.
Yeah, there you go.
I mean, I presume they're on Crunchyroll, right?
Both of these series are on Crunchyroll. I think Undead Murder Farce is exclusive to Crunchyroll. Vinland Saga, I know that the first season is available on a couple
Netflix?
different, Netflix, Amazon, and probably Hulu as well. I have to go check. I think season 2 might also be on Netflix as well, but I'd have to go double check that. I think it might. I don't. You can find it on Crunchyroll. I just don't think it's exclusive to Crunchyroll.
Okay.
There you go.
Yeah, because I've heard of Vinland Saga. I know my buddy Steve Wasson like raved about that one. I'm like, yeah, it's on my list, dude. But yeah, I didn't realize season 2 came out this year. So much content, so much stuff.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Yep.
Okay, everybody. That'll wrap up 2023, I think. Best and the worst. And, there's, of course, more. But, hey, I think I think we did a pretty good job here. So we will see you all next year, as in 2024. Thanks for tuning in.
Happy New Year, all.
Take care, all.